Oh, that we're on. Good. Okay. Yeah, last one. Yeah, I definitely think like a beverage cart going up and down too. Would be
That
fantastic.
was a missed opportunity.
Darn it. Darn
Yeah,
it.
but vocally self-critical is one of our
Come back
leadership
next
principles.
Year. We'll have it.
Be here next time.
I need to think bigger.
Think big.
Well, welcome to the last session of the day. Thank you all. Again, hopefully it's been a great event for you. And hopefully you get more out of today. And that's really my intent of this last panel, was to keep it kind of casual and open and just use some open discussion among the experts in our business to help those of you who are engaging as partners or want to engage with customers understand, what have we seen? What works well? What potentially does not work well? Excuse me. What are some of the best practices that you can get? Just intros too, my name is Dan Kaysen. I am one of the partner managers here in the U.S. and worldwide public sector, so I have a team of people who work with our partners, help them get ready and help them build business in public sector. And the intent of today or this session, is just have a discussion among some other leaders. I'm going to have them each introduce themselves and talk about those best practices and if we have time towards the end, answer some questions that you have too. Before I get started, how many people here are either a partner or a consulting organization or a technology partner? Good. Okay, good. How many people here are on my team?
Extra credit points.
Like I said, make sure you guys know. I know it's the end of the day.
Take down some names.
Well, good. So it's a pretty good crowd too. So which is great. Wanted to make sure that we had some too. And again, we're right next to the expo hall. It's like great. They'll just filter in here after the expo closes 2 hours ago. So everybody's been waiting out there for 2 hours. I know that. But anyway, thank you for coming. I want to start with introductions from everybody else. So Jane, go ahead.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Jane Lacey. I manage the U.S. Emerging Partner Team. That is all the other partners that are not named that Dan takes care of. But it's a really exciting position to be in because so many of you have such awesome offerings, whether it stems from managed services to technical solutions. And I work with teaming partners together, putting partners in front of customers, really mapping the success for our partner team for our customer success. So I'm really happy to be here this afternoon to answer any questions, and thank you for attending.
And I'm Dorothy Copeland. I lead our global partner program. So that's the APN and all of the programs associated with that, partner communications, our website, all of that.
Doug Van Dyke. I have several jobs at Amazon. So the first one is sales manager for U.S. Federal Civilian. Second one is sales manager for the nonprofits. Third one is business development for GovCloud. Fourth one is just huge partner advocate, and that's one that's self-appointed.
Good, and earned, I'll have to say.
Yeah, earned.
So we have a pretty good perspective here. But I'm the newbie here still, I guess. So I've been here about 1 year and 9 months. But Jane, prior to being a partner manager, really came out of our contracting business. And anybody who was here 2 sessions ago sat through her session on government. She really has depth there. Obviously, Dorothy has great depth and perspective on partner success across the world. Doug, from a sales standpoint, and the number one most valuable input that you can almost get as a partner is, what does an AWS seller or sales lead want? How can I help them be successful? They can help me be successful too. So hopefully we get some good perspectives across everything. And I want to start, I'm going to take the progression of partnership up, and I want to start with getting started. And the way this is going to work is I'm just going to pose some questions to everybody, and then we can all start chiming in. And I'm going to start with Dorothy, because you got probably the best background.
I get the hot seat.
Yeah, there we go. Start one. A lot of organizations, they start and they've been doing traditional consulting, or I have a product on a premises solution, and they're starting to say, oh gosh, I got to start getting into this cloud thing. What are the biggest challenges that you've seen organizations like that making a flip or making a change to cloud from what have they done in the past?
I think it's maybe just how they will approach providing solutions for customers. In terms of with the cloud, customers are trying to figure out the cloud as well. So it's easier to figure out an on-premise server or storage array, and the cloud's new for customers as well. And so getting really well educated on AWS is important, going through training. We also have a great document on our APN portal, which for those of you who are in the last session, I demoed our content page that's meant for consulting partners on how to build your business on AWS, and it goes through all the considerations that consulting partners go through, from what kinds of services to offer and what style of services, as well as how do you organize your sales team and how do you present your services to customers. So for those who are just getting started, I always point them to that doc.
Got it. Doug or Jane, any other thoughts on the transition or the hill to climb?
Sure. Becoming a member of the Advanced Partner Network, or the APN, is critical, because many partners are not, or they don't take advantage of the tools that Dorothy's organization has placed on that APN portal. I remind partners that come into my organization, go out there. It's really a plethora of marketing information, sales information, training information. Utilize it. It's at your disposal. And also, one other key element that my partners, I encourage them, use AWS yourselves first before you attempt to sell it. If you do not have hands-on experience, it makes for a much harder sale, right? So that's what I would encourage as get starting.
Yeah, so I think I can interpret this question however I want to, right?
Absolutely.
It's the end of the day. So I would say that my favorite partners, and first of all, my federal business, 100% of my federal business goes through partners. So I couldn't live without partners. My favorite partners are the ones that are working with my team in the field. So if you've already connected with one of the account managers in federal or nonprofit, or you're working on a GovCloud opportunity, and you've got a customer opportunity, you're already helping a customer with a production workload, you're 5 light years ahead of those people that haven't. And I'm not critiquing either. I think there was really good advice here. So when you approach a sales leader, if you've done the APN, reviewed the APN, and you've got an actual customer workload, and you're talking with the account team, and then you come to me, that's a really exciting discussion, because then we talk about how we take the partnership to the next level. If you don't have that yet, I still encourage you to do some research on AWS, figure it out, find go work with customers on those actual workloads. And like Jane said, if you're doing this yourself on AWS, you're going to be so much smarter than if you're still on-prem with your own workloads, and you're trying to get someone to move into the cloud, and you haven't really done it yourselves. So I would say step 1, doing the APN research. Step 2, work with customers. Get them, first of all, get them working with the cloud, and arguably step 3 or step 2 could be interchanged. Get yourself on the cloud first. Once you've hit those 3, then we're going to have a really productive discussion, and I look forward to it.
A couple of things that come to mind for me as new paradigms, and I'd love to get your perspective too on a couple of things that might be new to people, organizations in space. When I think about technology partners who have a premises-based solution, a lot of times you sell a license, you buy it from me, I'll come back in a year and I'll renew it. And when you go to cloud, it's different, because you have subscription models, there's utility pricing. When you go to a SaaS model, now you have to break it up. And those are new things. And when I work with new organizations that are thinking and go this way, I'll usually provide them, the first guide, getting technically competent is important. Other things I would recommend are making sure that you understand the business models around how to make money at cloud. And sometimes it's not as straightforward, and sometimes it breaks your current model. And that's a hard thing to get over as an organization, particularly a small company. Hey, this is my revenue line. You're asking me to kill that, or at least you put that potentially at risk in order to make a lot more money potentially too. But that's a hard thing for organizations to overcome. Any other paradigm things or big shifts that you see that hit people hard as they jump into it?
I think also in line with the revenue piece is the compensation piece of your sales folks. It looks differently, or I would think that it would look differently. And in fact, we've started asking our partners that question when sales are not going how we or they think that they should be, when they're not seeing that 100% success, we ask, how are you compensating your sales? Because if it's the traditional old school, I've sold $500 million worth of IT hardware and you got paid when the check cut, you know, it's different here because it's utility pricing. You pay for what you use, you get the monthly bill. That bill could be $5 that month because that's all the customer needed. So comping that sales rep is going to look dramatically different. So we, you know, all of us up here can speak to different examples of that offline, but consider that when you're thinking about it.
I can talk to that a little bit actually in the document I mentioned. We talk about how some consulting partners will estimate that. So when first of all, they'll often, especially as they're getting started, they'll pull out some of their more innovative sales reps and have them focus on their cloud business while keeping the on-premise business going with their existing sales team, or they'll hire up a small group. And keep it kind of small at first, but dedicated to cloud. The other piece that they'll do is when they win a new customer, they'll estimate how much that run rate will be over the course of a year or 2 years and comp the rep on that. So they're not necessarily having to be, you know, beholden to the $5 when the customer first gets started. And so there are a lot of different ways that there are lots of different ways that consulting partners are doing it, but one thing we do see is that they do need to think about it differently than how they're comping their sales team for on-premise hardware or license-based solutions. And so being really aware and cognizant of that is important if you really focus, because if you mix cloud in with the on-premise or licensed software within your sales team, it'll get lost in the shuffle.
So I've got a funny story about this. When I started with Amazon Web Services about 5 years ago, I went to a customer meeting downtown DC and parked my car, paid the $25 for parking, went in to meet with the customer. It was a federal customer, and we did a simple AWS calculator. We were helping them, if they moved this workload that they had on premise into the cloud, how much it would cost them. And we were doing the architecture, and we got everything figured out, and we hit the simple monthly calculator, and it totaled about $23 a month. So moving this one workload onto the AWS cloud was actually going to cost them less than my parking did for the meeting. And it was
That's
pretty.
not very good sales results.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was terrible sales
His
results,
boss
but
wasn't very happy.
customer
We take a
satisfaction,
long-term view of
right?
customers,
Long-term
so,
view,
yeah.
customer satisfaction was very high. Well, there was that initial shock and disbelief that I don't really believe this, but sure enough, they moved in, and it was $24 or $23. But what's profound about that is it's not how low it was; it's how much we can do for a lower price. And so, the government is not going to take, whether it was 1/100th or 1/10th, their budget's not going away. Their mission isn't going away. What actually happens is you can do a lot more mission for less money. And that's what distinguishes you as, a partner working with Amazon Web Services, is all these additional costs go away. And there's more budget for system integrators. There's more budget for doing that additional work that differentiates your solution. So the customer in the end, I think, probably spent about the same amount as they would have otherwise. But instead of just doing this, they did this. And the government's mission isn't getting smaller. The population's growing. They're reaching farther into space than they ever have before. And so I would challenge all of you, instead of doing the status quo, figuring out what more you can do in your responses based on the additional cost savings that you're going to provide in infrastructure on AWS.
And I'll add to that too. I kind of have an inverse story almost, where I was working with a partner who was doing a bid for a customer, and they said, well, we went into the Simply Monthly calculator, put everything in, and it was like the same price as buying on-prem. I said, well, that's kind of weird. And so walk me through it. We said, well, they had 30 servers on premises, and I took that and I put 30 servers into the calculator and did all the math. I'm like, well, of course, because you're not thinking cloud, you're thinking premises, you're not thinking optimization. And when you think about building your cloud business, you have to change how you think, how you architect, how you bid, and think about things like elasticity and scaling up and down, and changing how you do DR and those things too. And that's where the optimization, where the differential is going to come. And if you just approach the business like, this is just like a new, I'm just servers in the sky. You're not going to be able to give your customers the best experience. So you have to change the line of thinking as you go through it, and that will help you get to the point where the customers are doing tremendous amount more for a lot less. I mean, we do see that when we do these regular practices with our customers all the time, where we'll help them optimize. We'll say, okay, you're spending this amount here. A lot of that's you just month over month, EC2. We can get these things called reserved instances and cut your bill a lot. Great. I mean, it's customers we want to do, and customer will come and say, you're actually working with me to cut our bill and make it less expensive. Yes, that's what we do, because what I see happen, and I remember like my first month with AWS, like we're doing this, I'm like, really? Really? Like an old culture where. And what happens is, yeah, you know what? First month, that spend does come down, but it grows back up because the customer's budgets don't really change. But what happens is they do more. AWS only makes money when people do stuff. And what's gratifying about that is that as we see that grow, we know it's because they're doing more. And that's great for our partners, and that's great for our customers too. So I want to shift gears a little bit here, a little bit more, and let's talk a little bit about procurement, because one of Jane's most amazing topics here. How do you find? Well, I'll put out a false argument here. Aren't most customer RFPs really geared well towards cloud and easy to bid on and all that? Or how are you finding it, and what are some of the things you're seeing in terms of the bids that are coming out, the RFPs coming out from customers, and how can partners start making that better?
Sure. Certainly 4 years ago, they were not, right? Everybody had a different definition of cloud. Folks didn't even, they knew it was something that, the federal government had come out with a cloud first policy. What does that really mean? And then how does that get articulated down into these cloud procurements? And then, they would try to make a hybrid cloud procurement, right? I need X amount of servers, but throw in a little cloud too, just to see what it looks like, right? So consequently, 4.5, 5 years later, I just spoke about the cloud-ready contracts. We've worked with our customers, our partners, getting in early, right? Which of course everybody wants to do in an RFP situation. Get in early, have that time to shape the opportunity. But when it comes to cloud, a new technology, that really is critical and key to the success of that procurement. Because if you're not in there as a partner, if you're not in there shaping that, following the tenets of a cloud-friendly procurement, it will not look like that. And you won't get any bidders. It will not be a successful procurement. Things like being flexible, non-prescriptive. Do not identify exactly the type of server you need, right? You're talking cloud. You're talking about the most effective, optimizing the service that you need. It should be cloud services as in storage, compute, and down that way. Utility pricing, paying for what you use, not a fixed price bid. You want to be able to have that flexibility. You want to have the flexibility to all the new features and offerings. So get in there early, be working with the procurement officers, gain a business champion within the account. I think Doug would agree with me. The key to a successful procurement is a business champion. And that business champion has got to know and understand what cloud means to them as an agency or customer, and then that goes down into the RFP. One other piece of advice I gave in my earlier session was ask the procurement officer to send out a draft RFP, especially if it's their first time going through cloud procurements. Put it together after all these conversations, let the vendor community comment. Because if they're way off base, it's an opportunity for them to get it right. Procurements are expensive and they take time. They want to get it right just as much as we do. So I would encourage asking for a draft RFP.
Yeah, can I add on to that real quickly? So I will say in all partnerships, the customer is king or queen, whichever. If you have a customer who you are working with and you understand their business requirements, you are so far ahead than if you don't. In fact, There's nothing you all can do with a federal agency, with a nonprofit organization, or an educational institution unless you have a customer who you are having a discussion with, who you are responding to an RFP, who you are engaged with. So I think that customer relationship is such a critical part of our partnership that it should be the focus of as many, if not all, discussions as possible. So I like that you said that, Jane.
Martha, yeah, just thinking globally, have you seen anything of the partners that you know that are really good at winning business? Doesn't have to be in public sector. Are there some characteristics or things that they do that you think is notable or worth trying to replicate?
Sure, and I talked a little bit about that in my last session, but so on the consulting partner side, it's having a lot of really well-trained staff and also having them go through AWS training, getting certified, not only associate certs, but also pro certs. As well as I mentioned that it's important for consulting partners to have a really strong capability in project management, especially as they're deploying pretty complex customer migrations or deployments. That's something that we find our customers highly value. On the technology partner side, it's about making your product available globally. So we do look at, and customers do look at where products are available, and given that AWS has such a broad global footprint and growing, that's a huge opportunity for technology partners. And then for technology partners, really giving their customers choice and how they want to buy their solution, whether it's on the marketplace or bring your own license or SaaS. We're increasingly seeing that that our technology partners' customers are asking for SaaS solutions. So that's something that we're really encouraging our software partners to do.
Yeah, and you're just kind of on that too. One of the things that I've been seeing several really successful technology partners do is, particularly as they're migrating from a premises-based architecture and they're trying to help their customers get to cloud solutions, they're being really creative about granting them license usage and extending terms of a contract. Hey, you can start using this cloud. We'll give you an extra X number of months on as you adopt the cloud, to provide incentives and comfort from their customers that it's going to be just as good of experience and hopefully even a better one, whether it's cost or whatever too. But you have to be creative in addressing their customers early as they're planning too in their migration to the cloud has really been important as well. You mentioned training, and I just want to get your perspective, Doug and Jane. How much do certifications really matter? When you look at your customers, do they look at partners? Is that something they take into consideration?
Absolutely. So,
Okay.
and I will say, so being certified at the associate level, so first of all, I've heard that the Amazon accreditations are some of the most valuable in the market.
Yep.
So, number one, it's valuable to you. Number two, your customers are looking for it. And number three, we're looking for it. So, I kind of score partners by how many employed individuals they have with Amazon accreditations. And if you certification, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
No.
Mine's on accreditation.
We like that too.
Mine's on FedRAMP. Certifications. So I score them. And if there's a group, a pretty large group of certified Amazon Web Services, that's a partner that I want to go and do business with. Thank you for the correction, Dorothy.
And from my perspective, obviously the APN gives great resources with discounted training and those things. And I concur, Jane. One of the best ways that I've seen partners build those skills, you got to use it yourself. You got to eat your own dog food. The only way to become competent is to actually do stuff with it. You can go to certification classes and training, and you might be able to pass some of the tests. They're not easy though. For anybody here been through professional certification? Was it easy? No. It's not
tough.
easy.
Nice
But
job.
Congratulations, and it's purposeful. We want these certifications to mean something, but you really have to have the dirt under your fingernails to be able to get through them.
Yeah, thank you for everyone who raised your hand. I'm impressed.
Indeed.
He's going to come out and find out what company you work
Yeah.
for and say, I want to partner with you in my next
Yep.
customer engagement.
Yep.
Any other thoughts on other ways or other mechanisms to get trained and get ready for on AWS? And one thing that comes to mind too is work with other partners. And then this is the other thing they say. A lot of times you may not have competency in one particular area. or you're trying to grow it and trying to build it, instead of just going out and hunting for that customer that's willing to take the risk. See if you can do something jointly with another partner that maybe has compensating capabilities to you where you can add value. Those kind of things help because they might be able to learn from you and you from them, and maybe the both of you would do a better job servicing a customer than one alone.
Many of the partners that I work with in state and local government and even in the federal space, some of them will hold the contract, right? And as we all know, that's the keys to the kingdom. Well, usually only one or two. Some of them have multiple awardees, but for those that just have a few awarded winners, that partner's not going to hold all the competencies that customer may need. So we work really closely with many partners to team those up to match the competencies, whether it be cloud migration, DevOps, et cetera, even the government competency, to map to those contracting partners, right? And then also, I wanted to just provide a little insight here. I've been working with a traditional VAR, right, a value-added reseller, where they sell hardware, right? And that business is still very strong. And they were concerned, you know, they wanted to do AWS, their customers were asking for AWS. They were really frustrated because they couldn't figure out why their business wasn't scaling. And it wasn't until they got that first certified solutions architect on their team. Now granted, they had lots of technical folks, but nobody that really had dug in and got their hands dirty in AWS. When they finally got that person on their team, it was like water, turning the water on. That's when they started getting the business. Because you know, there's a certain amount of credibility with your customer then when they get on the phone or they go out and meet with the customer. You put the certified solution architect in front of them and start talking about architectures and optimization. It means something to that customer. Just as, you know, we walk in with a degree, or, you know, it matters. So that partner was very appreciative and saw then the value that it took for the time that person had to go away, take the training, study, et cetera.
What should partners expect from AWS in terms of how they engage with their sales team? Like Doug, you mentioned before, you know, you want them to work directly with the sales folks. Should they expect us to be giving them leads? Should they expect to be bringing us leads? Is it both? You know, what's your experience in working with?
So I'll tell you about your competition. I'm gonna start at the highest bar. This is true. It's one of my favorite, probably my favorite partner. Won a major contract, brought AWS in, AWS the infrastructure. We knew it. Our sales team was having, you know, some peripheral meetings with them. They got major workloads from this large federal customer, moved on to AWS with very, very minimal help from us. And, you know, Dan's team, my team, were continuing, you know, we were talking to the customer a little bit. We were making sure everything was going well. Dan was making sure everything was going well. They're so good on AWS, they didn't need us. Now, we were there with them the whole way. And when I finally, at the end of this massive project, said, you know, I almost feel helpless. What can I do? And the request was, can you buy my team a beer? So when we get to the point where I agree to buy your team a beer, or beers, not just one beer for the whole team. We're frugal, but we're not that frugal. I bought beers, and so that's like the crowning achievement. Now, I'm not going to say AWS isn't going to be there and partner and help you, because we were volunteering and we were having meetings. And at one point, the partner said, I love that you're reaching out to help Doug, but we've got a deadline and you're slowing us down, so can we wait until this is over? So that's, you know, I mean, that's the extreme, and they've been at this a long, long time. Now,
do they have a lot of certifications?
They have a lot of certifications, probably, yeah, yes. I think it's over 30, and
okay.
So it's probably one of the highest. You may know better.
Oh yeah,
okay.
They are. And you know, just kind of to on that too, and this is probably one of the differences that I've seen as well, is when they're in a customer, they see every engagement as a sales opportunity. And then that's not a bad thing. And people say you know, that oh, they're in there selling. No, there's always more that you can do for a customer than what they ask for. They'll ask for X, you go and you deliver X, but then you show them how life could be better with Y and Z as well. And you can only do that if you have competent people who know what can be done. And if you don't have really serious experts in there doing that work, you're not going to see it. So you've got to be able to guide those customers forward, and you've got to be working to sell them and help them understand the opportunities outside of what you're paid to do. We have many partners that I work with that go in, they're on a contract, they do the work, and they go home at night, and they'll bid different business. I'm like, no, you guys, you're working with that customer, you're on that contract now, drive that one home. There's a lot more fruit on that tree than you guys are picking. And it's something that if you have that opportunity, you do have the customer engagement, it can be much bigger than what's written on paper in a lot of ways. And the organizations that see that and drive that and develop that are the ones that do really well. Jane, I don't know if you have any other comments.
Agreed. I've seen that in the smaller partner where they've answered the mail, they've gone in, done a great job, but then they leave. And then again, they're concerned why the ROI is not there and the repeat customer. Your customers, the cloud thing is new to them too. And we're educating every day. And it takes more than one conversation with that customer. I can go back many times and iterate it a little bit differently. Finally, the bells and whistles go off. They finally get it. Well, you as a partner also have to be an educator about cloud. So if you simply just answer the mail, the customer, that's all he knows too. So we really we utilize you as an extension of our education. So I would encourage you to, once you're in there, educate your customer because they don't know what they don't know.
And we mentioned earlier in the last session, tens of thousands of partners out there. How does one rise above the fray? And Dorothy, how would you, if a partner said, hey, I want to really stand out, what would you guide them to?
Yeah, sure. A couple of things. A common related question is partners will say, well, what's important to AWS? And we're actually really, like all things with AWS, we're really transparent about that. So both for technology and for consulting partners, we have all of our requirements and our benefits posted on our website so you can see how we're measuring both software and consulting partners. The other piece is that we have a couple of different programs that are about differentiating partners that are really good in certain areas. So one is our competency program, which we just announced that we now have a government competency. And so that's basically setting apart partners that we have acknowledged are very strong in government, have a lot of great government customers, have a full government practice or a full product available to government customers. And we have many different competencies. We have now 14 competencies: DevOps, migration, life sciences, healthcare, and many, many more that we're coming out with. And that's a program that we're putting a lot of focus on because we feel like it's our most customer-centric program, helping customers figure out, okay, I have a business problem, I need some help, I don't necessarily want to go this cloud journey all by myself. I'd like a partner. Who are partners that are really good in certain areas where I'm trying to solve business problems? And then finally, for consulting partners, we launched about 18 months ago our managed service program that validates partners that are really strong in providing AWS cloud-based managed services, which is different than traditional managed services. It's about partners that are great in doing DevOps and automation and migration. And so we have an 80-point third-party auditor that comes in. And throughout this process, we work closely with partners. And even some of our best partners, when they first went through the audit, there were things that they realized that they needed to improve on some of their practices. And so that's something that we see that as an iterative process, and we only have about 70 partners around the world today that are MSPs. So, and about 5 or 6 that actually focus on public sector that are MSPs. And so we really view our MSP program and our competency program as kind of a cut above the rest. And they help you stand out to our customers, and we're increasingly doing a lot more focus around marketing for partners that are in those programs.
Yep. And Jane, how about you? Like, what makes you take notice?
I echo everything Dorothy said, and then the big question I always ask when I'm meeting with partners is, how do you differentiate yourself to the
a great
market, to the
question.
customer.
Yeah, being really clear about
Being
that,
very
right?
clear
Yeah.
about it, right? And then what segment do you want to be working in? You know, commercially, cloud has been available a lot longer than public sector. So many offerings have been tried and true and been successful in commercial. I welcome that, right? Many times the solution is the same, but you may not have an affinity towards working with a government customer or vice versa with a commercial customer. So know who you want to go after or be willing to try, and then articulate the differentiation to the customer so that they understand the difference between what you offer.
Okay, we have about 10 minutes left, and I do want to potentially leave a little time for question, but I have one question for each of you, and it is, if you have one piece of guidance or one ask of a potential partner out there, what would it be? You tell them it's one thing.
I use my differentiation thing.
Yeah, so I can say it in one. I can say it in one word.
New one too.
Customer. That's
There
it.
you go.
Profound. That's the secret to life.
Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay,
Customer.
so along that, actually mine is, I'm building on that.
All right.
So, and you can see if you can build on it. So along the lines is a happy customer, customer reference, customer that's willing to let you write a case study on them. We find that super powerful. I mean, it's kind of logical, but it's way more powerful than you think to have really strong customer references and case studies that you can provide to potential customers. Because no customer wants to do it the first time, you know, or they see that as risky. I mean, lots of customers do it for the first time, but there's comfort in knowing that other customers are doing that. So you can use it in your marketing. There's just you can give it to us. You can put it on the APN partner directory. It's just a great tool that I recommend that partners do.
To build onto that, if you can't get the customer all in because of the procurement, you know, the traditional barriers of what you're doing, see if you can get a proof of concept going. Just put them in the sandbox. If you can't even get that going, put your solution on a test drive, an AWS test drive, or a quick lab. Those are tools that AWS offers.
Or a free trial.
Or a free trial,
We'll
right.
fund the AWS
Exactly.
usage. Yeah.
So again, the APN benefits, look on there, get with your partner manager to see what's available, the benefits of being a member of the APN as far as those proof of concept dollars and testing dollars. Proof of concepts are huge in public sector. That gives them the opportunity to try. That's it.
You know, and I'll build on that a little bit in that, in a way, the partner community, you guys are our customers just as well, too. And part of our job is to make sure that you're happy and that your experience is a good one and that you're successful. And the information and the content that's out there that Dorothy's team put together is significant, and it's really good. And in my experience here so far, I'm finding that many partners aren't fully aware of what's out there. So the first thing, the one thing I can say is, educate yourself about what AWS can do for you or is doing for you already, because there's some great stuff out there, some fantastic content and other things that will help you if you just turn the match on and figure out what's out there. It does take a little bit of digging, and it does take, just like getting your certification would take some work. You know, understanding how to be an AWS business takes a little bit of work too, but there's good stuff out there. And help, let us help you too. Right. My team, our PDMs, our sales organization here, you know, our job is to help make you successful. Because like Doug mentioned, almost in public sector, nothing happens without partners. And making sure that we have a strong ecosystem to support our customers' needs is a requirement for growth. And that's our job. So help us help you. If you ever find yourself, you need something, you're stuck or whatever, contact me, contact my team, contact your PDM. And I got a stack of cards up here for everybody here.
I want to reiterate that partners are our customers, right? You own the AWS account on behalf of your customers. So you are our customer first. Let us help.
Indeed. So with that, we have 6 minutes and 16 seconds left. Anybody have any questions or anything that if you want to come to them, I think there's a mic out there. Is there a mic out there?
Yes, there's a mic. Yeah. Please come to the mic, that way they can record it and everyone can hear.
Hi, I'm a software manufacturer looking to find additional ways for federal government to consume my software COTS. You mentioned 3 different routes to that earlier. BYOL, SaaS, and Marketplace. What's the difference between the last two of those, between the Marketplace and SaaS?
Sure, that's a great question. So SaaS is where you're offering you're essentially hosting your software on AWS and you're offering it as a service. So maybe it's on a monthly or per user basis and you're handling the underlying AWS infrastructure and providing it as a service. So a good example of that is Salesforce. If your company uses Salesforce, you just log in and Salesforce is providing that as a SaaS offering. The marketplace, the proper name is the AWS Marketplace, is an online store that's on the AWS website that enables our partners to list their products on us. And what happens is that customers buy it and it goes into their AWS bill. So today on Marketplace, we support AMI-based or Amazon Machine Image-based software deployment. In the future, there will be additional models too. Sure.
Other questions? Well, good. And we can finish the day a little bit early. So one, again, thanks everybody. I do have cards up here too. I want to thank all of the panelists as well. Appreciate your time, particularly again late in the day, and appreciate your time too. If you do have any questions, feel free to come up afterwards. Otherwise, thank you for coming and have a safe ride home.
Thank you.